NBA Finals Game 1 tonight. There's a lot to dig into and try to figure out, give ourselves a modicum of an edge. We're going to do what we always do on this channel, which is compare my projection to some industry leaders out there, in particular, our friends Stochastic. We'll see what they have data-wise, see what they have ownership-wise, compared to what I've got. We'll also hop over to Debated, see what the best market-based bets are. Not sure we'll find a ton, but we will take a look there to see what we have across points, rebounds, assists, and PRAs on your primary betting sites out there and your pick'em sites. We'll hop back to Stochastic, run a DFS sim, and by the end of this video, you know all the industry's must-plays along with my splash plays for Indiana OKC Game 1. Let's get into it. Indiana, big dog today. They are, in fact, 9-point dog as of before, actually 9.5 as of before the show. Point totals at 230 combined here. So pretty high total for an NBA Finals game. We're in the playoffs so far. We have seen the defense kind of constrict. These two teams played twice during the regular season. In both games, there was no Chet Holmgren, so a little bit hard to get a full read into what's going on there. Both games as well did have Isaiah Hartenstein playing not great minutes. And in fact, OKC went pretty small. And one of the games, the one that was on March 29th, they went Kenrich Williams to start the second half with a starting group of Kason Wallace, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, SGA, Kenrich Williams. Hartenstein didn't play the second half. Not sure if that was due to him being hurt or being ineffective. But basically, there has been a history in these two games, which don't mean everything. Small sample size of only 2 games, really something to have to point out in advance of anything. Players who went off in the 2 games when these teams played, guys like SGA going off, obviously kind of expect that to happen again. But a guy who got a lot of usage in one of these games, Miles Turner, had a 30% usage rate in that March 20, whatever it was, March 29th game. For Miles Turner, don't expect him to have a 30% usage rate in this game like he did before. So that's kind of the thing to keep in mind here. These games they had in the regular season can tell us a little bit of the picture. For the most part, you're going off the projections, you're going off the minutes and all that, and you're hoping to make some assumptions along the way. But it is interesting to note that in the 2 games that they did play, the big man situation was not one where they went 2 bigs a lot. So I think you are at risk for some players that I have pretty highly owned so far in the semi-round before the show. But let's go through my projections here. We'll talk more about some of the 2 games these teams have played, which are not very insightful, I would say, besides the fact that OKC won them both, one of which handily in particular. But SGA, top projected guy today, 53 is my projection, rounding up there. 52.9 is it to the decimal point. Stochastic has him for 56.2. The rates for SGA, he's been the highest fantasy point per minute producer in this series, putting up 1.41 fantasy points per minute. Halliburton's at number 2 in the playoffs with 1.28 fantasy points per minute. But SGA, dominant usage, 33.5%. His assist rate's been higher than it was in the regular season as well at 32%. Rebound rates, I think, a little bit lower. But for SGA, your ball dominant player, your guy you expect to have hit, I projected 10 fantasy points higher than the next guy, who's Tyrese Halliburton. So in my opinion, SGA is probably going to make it in more lineups than not. Got him 43% of my top 150 lineups in the flex. At captain before the show, I got him in 30% overall captain. So basically getting him in about 75%. You can make the case he should be in 100% of your lineups tonight. Obviously, there are some situations where he'll fail. In particular, one where the Pacers suddenly play really good defense, lock him down. Maybe they blow out the game somehow on the road. That's the kind of spot where SGA maybe doesn't get his full run of minutes. But really, your expectation is SGA plays the full run of minutes. He's a great value despite being 12-2 as well in terms of that salary. So he is your priority play today and should be in pretty much every lineup. As the dog looks wistfully at her bone that she dropped on the floor. Has to drop it at least once when I'm doing a stream when she's in here with me. Tyrese Halliburton, 50% ownership in the flex for me. 45% is the Stochastic ownership. So a little bit over on Halliburton, a little bit under on SGA. At captain, I'm also getting Halliburton almost 2x the field, 9.7%. It's the expected ownership. I'm getting it 19. For Halliburton, the big thing that I would say stands out, if we are going to go with the small sample size, the 2 games they played this year, not good games for Halliburton, 33.5 fantasy points on the March 29th game. I think he was really bad the first one. Yeah, first one, he was egregiously bad. 18 fantasy points in 35 minutes and change, only 8% usage. Was legitimately terrible in the 2 games that they played, in particular that first game that occurred on December 26th, day after Christmas. So maybe Halliburton was celebrating too much all the gifts he got from Santa Claus, couldn't show up. But he really had a terrible game against them, playing 35 minutes, 20 seconds, basically, putting up 18 fantasy points. We're talking about 0.5 fantasy points a minute. Not a good result for Halliburton when they did play earlier in the year. A little bit better the second time they played. That's my risk or my concern for Halliburton. The kind of players that we've seen have some tough times against OKC have been your lead ball handlers. Anthony Edwards, a stronger player, a guy I would say is a less bashful shooter compared to Halliburton, who puts up normally about a 22.5% usage rate in the playoffs. He was shut down entirely by OKC, had some of his worst shooting days of the entire playoffs. That worries me because I don't think Halliburton's that good of a scorer. The assist upside as well, you're probably going to see because of OKC's defense being good, you're probably going to see more kickouts where it's Halliburton making one pass and the other player makes another pass. And that's if Indiana can even convert a basket against tough OKC defense. But you're probably not seeing Halliburton get that first assist either. So I think there's a real risk in terms of how I'd view the game projection-wise. Obviously, you get what you get data-wise, and you kind of have to figure out how that aligns with what you view in terms of the game theory here. But I worry about Halliburton in this matchup. I think it's not a great matchup for him. I think he also continued to play well enough in that Knicks series, but also had some marked downsides in a few games. I think for Halliburton, I'm okay being with the field here. I don't love my stance right now of being 5% more in the flex, double the field at captain. But I get why, because SGA is so highly owned, so ubiquitously owned. Halliburton's a way to get different. I think take the shot on Siakam more. I think even Miles Turner, Andrew Nembhard. Nembhard had a 31% usage rate in one of the games that Indiana played against OKC this year. And they try to take shots on those guys more appeal to me. But data-wise, I am getting Halliburton a good amount with my projection of 42.9. A little bit higher in Stochastics at 42.2. Jalen Williams, same thing as he was in the previous series, your big pivot to SGA. That's set at 9,800. A lot of the value has been priced out. 51% flex ownership expected by Stochastic. I'm getting him at 36 there. In terms of captain ownership, Stochastic has him at 16%. Jalen Williams, and I'm getting him 26% at captain. So being a little bit lower in the flex, higher at captain, hoping he hits the upside, or at least enough upside that perhaps you can get SGA in, one of Halliburton, Siakam, those kind of high pay-up option players. Getting them in with Jalen Williams at captain is a little bit easier to do as opposed to SGA at captain, as opposed to Halliburton at captain. But I think Jalen Williams looks really more than appropriately on the flex. He's a good value despite being 9,800, but really his biggest reason to play him in the Showdown series is in the Western Conference Finals were because he was really too cheap for what his role is, what the situation was, and obviously he went nuts as well. For Jalen Williams, I think he's a little bit overpriced in this spot, even though he'll make my lineups a good amount. And for him too, if you care about how he played in the games, 32.5 fantasy points in the game they played after Christmas. And then on March 29th, he put up 28.5 fantasy points in 29 minutes and change. So 2 mediocre efforts for Jalen Williams against the Pacers. Again, no reason that's going to be the case again today, but with him being this highly owned, maybe the game bias there of what happened this season plays in a little bit more for you out there. Pascal Siakam, 37% of the flex, fields at 32. Siakam's results stood out to me from the previous games as well. The March 29th game was pretty bad for him, only 25 fantasy points on DraftKings. The first game they played, though, he put up 42.5 fantasy points in 31 minutes. So effectively had the game here where he soaked up a lot of the production that would normally go Halliburton's way. Same thing for Nembhard that game where Nembhard put up 31% usage. Miles Turner had 23. Basically, Nembhard, Siakam, and Turner all put up 40 fantasy points or better. I think that's a way that Halliburton could end up going today, where if Halliburton does succeed, you could see multiple Pacers play well because basically they're going to get that second pass, that third pass that comes from Halliburton trying to create, probably getting trapped, probably not able to create for himself as well as he would like to be able to. That's how I assume it's going to go. So I like getting Siakam at least with the field. 32% here for me. Field's at 37. At captain, Siakam is coming in at 5.9%. I'm getting 6. Would be happy to get more Siakam than I'm getting right now, but I'm making sure I have some in my top 150 with the semi-round before the show. I feel like I'm getting enough Siakam, but I think I could make the case to get more. Chet Holmgren's a guy I've been low on basically all playoffs, all regular season too, to be honest, unless all the Thunder guys were out. $8,800 salary. He'll be played 39% of the time. I'm getting 13. At captain, Fields playing him at 9. I'm getting him at 1%. Holmgren really hasn't moved a whole lot rate-wise in the playoffs, putting up 22% usage, 1.17 fantasy points a minute. That's fine. I think he plays better, like we talked about in previous games. He'll maybe hit a lineup if you have a situation where OKC blows him out, then you possibly have the shot of having SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren make it. But mostly, I think Holmgren is more interesting, either a captain or the flex. You don't have Jalen Williams in a lineup because you're basically saying that secondary usage went somewhere else, and Holmgren's the one most likely to absorb it. And I do think as well with OKC going shorter, not two big men. They didn't have Holmgren available, but they didn't play a lot of Hartenstein and Jalen Williams either. So they didn't go two big men versus Indiana when they played them earlier in the year. My guess would be that you run the risk of Holmgren and Hartenstein eating into each other's minutes as well. So Holmgren, I think he looks the best to me in lineups where no Jalen Williams, no Hartenstein, or you're just playing an OKC blowout and you just cram a bunch of the stars in and hope they put up a ton of points. I think that's very possible here. TJ McConnell seems like a real wish cast problem. I mean, if Halliburton plays poorly, it makes it easier for McConnell to get there, but we'll see where I have him at in a moment because we are still sorted by overall projection here. Miles Turner, the kind of center that has played well versus OKC this year. That said, in the playoffs, Naz Reid was one of those players that kind of played well against OKC in the regular season and failed miserably, I think, for the most part, at least fantasy-wise, in the playoffs. Turner, though, stretched big, guy who can also get some blocks, can play close to the rim, can also chase guys around a little bit as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble. I think Turner has a lot of utility here. So really think, to me, getting him at 34% feels good. Getting Siakam at a similar rate. Trying to get some more of these guys, a little more Nembhard. I think if we're going to play the Halliburton not succeeding situation, I think Siakam, Turner, Nembhard have a good shot of picking up utility and usage overall as well, like they did in the beginning of the year when they played OKC. Let's see. We got Andrew Nembhard, 25%. Again, played pretty well in one game against the Thunder earlier in the year, not so well in the other game. Actually, still played pretty well in the second game, too, at 32.8 fantasy points in 30 minutes. So he actually is one of the better players for Indiana in that second game, too. So Nembhard had 2 good games. The thing with Nembhard, which Zach Lowe talked about at length with Kirk Goldsberry on his podcast earlier in the week, which I tried to listen to get some basketball takes that are just not my data stuff / what I think about it. And his thought was that Nembhard's going to play a lot of minutes to try to play defense on SGA. He'll also probably get a lot of open looks from 3 because he'll be the one that's uncovered when they're swinging the ball around. So for Nembhard, 25% in the flex, Fields at 20. I like that. At captain for Nembhard, I'm getting him only 1.3%, Fields at 1.5. So not really a pro stand there. But I think Nembhard's an interesting play at 7,400. I don't know that he's got captain upside. More so, I guess you could play him at captain if you're not playing Halliburton at all, would be my guess, because the hope would then be that Halliburton gets completely shut down and Nembhard absorbs some assists, absorbs some threes, some scoring. That would be the case that could get there. Maybe if Halliburton completely fails and doesn't make a lineup at all. But I think Nembhard, Turner, to me, really important plays today. Siakam appropriately owned, but these 2 guys being 20% owned. I think, and I'll say, I think one of these guys makes winning lineup tonight. I don't know that I would force them into every lineup because, like, obviously things can happen. But I do think there's a pretty good shot that one of Turner, one of Nembhard does have a game-winning or, lineup tournament-winning kind of game today. Aaron Nesmith, 26%, 17% for the flex right now. According to Stochastic ownership for Nesmith, I'm also getting him 2% in captain. Fields at 1, so not the biggest stand there. Nesmith, I believe, was unavailable for both games. Definitely unavailable for one of them. He played the second game. He played the March 29th game. Put up 14% usage, 16.5 fantasy points in 22 minutes. This was a game as well where they didn't have Mathurin in it. So for Nesmith to have not gotten big minutes, a little bit of a concern. And I guess perhaps to Consiglieri's point, Obi Toppin in this game played 22 minutes. Jarris Walker played 26. Jarris Walker's on crutches, though, so I presume he's not available today. I haven't double-checked that. Jarris Walker played a lot in this game, though, last time. See, NBA injury report. Yeah, Jarris Walker out. Okay. Walker out, Jackson out, Tony Bradley questionable. Bradley a better matchup for this team today, but I think Thomas Bryant probably 1 minutes back in the last series. It doesn't really matter, though. For Nesmith, though, the fact that he only played 22 minutes in that last game against the Thunder would worry me. They've played Nesmith a lot more in the playoffs, so that certainly could be a part of it. Ben Shepherd played 21 minutes of the game, too. But no Jarris Walker makes me think that Nesmith has to play a bunch of minutes. Yeah, because they went back to Jarris Walker. So I think Nesmith might be out of obstacles to keep him from getting reliable minutes today. 7K salary, getting him more than the field as well. I prefer Turner, prefer Nembhard based on just how I think this game will go. But projection-wise, Nesmith is right with them. And really the Pacers guys, I think overall, they're kind of your value guys to get to today in the hopes that they don't get blown out. But really, I would say, too, with the ownership here, where you have so much for Siakam, so much for Halliburton, good amounts for Turner, Nembhard, and Nesmith. If you play the Thunder blowout, you might be a little bit lesser owned than you should be, given the likelihood of what the Thunder is to blow out the Pacers today. Isaiah Hartenstein. So this is a tough one for me. I don't see how he gets enough minutes today. I think they're going to go with a lot more situations where they have one of Hartenstein or Holmgren on the court. Stochastic right now has Hartenstein playing 21.5 minutes, Chet playing 29.6. So basically saying these guys are playing a little bit of overlapping minutes probably when the game starts, maybe the second half, but not a lot more besides that. But I'm getting Hartenstein 59% of my top 150 lineups, Fields at 15. I don't like that. I could see getting a guy like him 33% in the flex, maybe. I also got Hartenstein 7% in the captain spot, Fields at 1. He would have to crush so hard that he basically plays Holmgren off the court. So, like I said before, for Holmgren, would not play Holmgren and Hartenstein together. I'm pretty confident in that. For Hartenstein, I get the price tag being good. He has produced well overall throughout the regular season and the playoffs, though, and I don't dock guys for how they've played in the playoffs. I'll give guys a boost for how they've played if they've gotten more usage or whatever, but I don't really adjust the rates downwardly. But Hartenstein's average still 1.03 fantasy points a minute, 16% usage, 17% rebound rate, 13% assist rate. He's been fine. I don't know. They didn't play that way. I mean, again, they didn't have Holmgren, so that's certainly a part of it. But they went Kason Wallace, so they went 2 wing defenders instead throughout the regular season. I mean, it certainly can move around here. I don't think it's likely you get a lot of Hartenstein and Chet together. If I had to guess, I don't think it's most likely. And I think Zach Lowe also felt like Hartenstein's going to get played off too. So, certainly a little confirmation bias, the thing that I believe. I hear it from somebody I think is sharp, and they're saying it's the same thing. But I really do find it hard to believe that Hartenstein and Holmgren both play a ton of minutes together today. Caruso should get more minutes of the series as well. This is exactly what you get him for, is the NBA Finals. Switch him around on guys. He and Kason Wallace both get reliable minutes overall. Played a ton last series overall in this spot. I think are in the hunt to play a good amount of minutes again. And Caruso projected for 23.5 here. He could easily get you to 28 or so, especially if you see less for the big men like Hartenstein, even like Holmgren. Lou Dort has played up and down throughout the entire playoffs, has been the lowest fantasy point per minute producer, I believe, on the entire team, with 0.62 fantasy points a minute. For comparison, your next closest guy is Kason Wallace at 0.72. Likely the guy is going to take Lou Dort's spot next year because we're not going to be able to, we're probably not going to want to afford to bring Lou Dort back. For Dort, though, 19% ownership. I'm flat with that. A captain did not get any Lou Dort. I'm fine with that as well. Lou Dort to play to mix in, I think. Being with the field on him feels okay. But his minutes get jerked around as well. You could see Caruso and Kason Wallace take minutes away from him. And certainly if the 2 big men played as well, you run at double risk there where you just run into multiple ways that you could get Dort not playing enough minutes. Even though Dort has a reputation of being this wing defender who's out there a ton, they really have jerked his minutes around as much as anybody besides Hartenstein in the starting group. Let's sort by value here. Thank you, Squeak Diesel. I appreciate that. Of course, appreciate all you guys who are watching this video. If you can, if you're watching live or after the fact, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Get them showing up at this point because, frankly, this is going to be one of the lowest rated NBA finals. And also, people have not watching a ton of NBA DFS content in the playoffs. But I made a commitment at the beginning of the year. I said I would go through all regular season with unabated. And of course, now that we're in the playoffs, we'll see it through as well through all the showdown slates. So I'll keep being here Monday to Friday here with a video usually around 1 p.m. For these NBA finals. And it's possible I do the weekend because Alex is out of town. So I don't know when game 2 is, but I presume it's Saturday. I guess it could be Sunday. Somebody probably knows already, and I could also very easily look it up. Your top value plays, though, right now, Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams. So Kenrich Williams talked about in one of the games, he did start the second half at center for Isaiah Hartenstein. No guarantee that happens again, but if they go small at center, it's not, again, that was also game 2 with no Holmgren, both games this year versus the Pacers with no Holmgren. There's some ways Kenrich Williams cannot see the court at all. I think this 8.8 minute projection, I think, is totally fair by Stochastic because it captures sort of the risk if he doesn't play at all, or even if he plays and just sucks, he could put up like 2 fantasy points and that wouldn't be a shocker. But this is your value tier. Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, other Jalen Williams here. These guys are all 1K to 1,600, and they're all in the hunt to some extent for OKC, depending on what they do rotationally. And maybe Consigliere is right. Maybe they go 2 bigs for OKC, and if that were the case, maybe they'll keep Jalen Williams on the court after and just try to blow him off the court with big men. I think it's most likely given the Pacers lineups, but it can happen. So Jalen Williams, that's his utility. Kenrich Williams is more the option if they go small. And Isaiah Joe, you could play no matter what because he might not play. If he does play, he might get up 5 threes in that amount of court time and score, hit 4 3-pointers in that period, add a rebound or something. Then you're talking already about, 13, 14 fantasy points at 1,200. He probably wins the tournament at that point. So Isaiah Joe, unfortunately, don't know if he'll really be in the lineups in a meaningful way or not, but he's in the hunt. Same thing for Kenrich, same thing for Jalen Williams. Thomas Bryant would assume he stays ahead of Tony Bradley with him playing fairly well. That Knicks closeout game, 2K salary for him. He's also the kind of player, much like Miles Turner, has had a little more success against OKC this year, where able to stretch the court a little bit, still be able to do the traditional big man things like rebounding, like protecting the rim. Thomas Bryant, I think, has utility in the series. 8% ownership for him. I'm getting 6. He's the most owned of my value guys so far. Obi Toppin, $3,600 salary, getting him in 31% of lineups. He'll play whatever Siakam's not playing. He's also possibly could play some of Miles Turner's minutes if Miles Turner doesn't play well out there. Obi Toppin offers kind of a bootleg version of what Miles Turner does, where he can knock down some threes, can stretch the field, stretch the court a little bit, but also, can attack the rim enough and rim protect to some extent. But Obi Toppin, I think he looks okay as a value play. Really wouldn't want to play him at captain, but I did get him 2% at captain. I'm in my top 150. Benedict Mathurin, think he's a guy, if you see him play and play well, it'll probably be because Indiana's starting group really played shittily, didn't get a lot of points going. They bring Mathurin in for some off the bench scoring to get going. So I think for Mathurin, he's got ways to make a lineup at 3K. 17% ownership for me, Fields at 16. I would say the issue for Mathurin is that I believe he went off in that last Knicks game, if I'm remembering correctly. I feel like it's been enough time now where that date has already escaped me. Let's see. Yeah, Mathurin, was it the game before last that he had the really good game? Yeah, he was awful last time out, 4 points. But again, the game before last, you saw him play well. So I would say that for, this is game 7, right? Yes, or game 6. Yeah, so the game before last, Mathurin went off. That's what Mathurin offers. If the team is really in the shitter and they're not playing well enough, Mathurin can theoretically find a way to get some buckets. He also, if he fails, will get yanked off the court pretty fast because he's not going to offer a ton defensively. And if his shot's not falling, he's still going to keep forcing it, and there's not going to keep him out there. So for Mathurin, I think he's got that real push-pull dynamic where he can give you 0 or close to 0. He could also give you 20 here and make a winning lineup. I think he's worth the exposure, being a little bit above it, but holding hands to the field would be fine as well. TJ McConnell getting 6% more in the field, so I guess I do hope that he plays well. I'm above on him and Obi Toppin. Both guys, I think, have ways to make it, mostly because I think the starters struggle versus OKC, and maybe that's not the case. Pacers have shown up for a lot of games, but they've also had a lot of games where they've played from behind against other teams that, frankly, were not good enough to ice them. If they go from behind the Thunder, if they fall 20 points back, 25 points back, they're not digging out. And more likely, the Thunder will just keep piling it on top, piling it on top, piling it on top. And the defense will get tighter as well, because then they'll just have Kason Wallace and Caruso out there trying to shut down the wings. So point being, like, I think there's a real good chance you get McConnell and Toppin minutes, but it's really, to me, those builds are look more appealing where you have ones where you're only playing one Pacer starter, maybe 2. If you're playing like Turner, Mathurin, Siakam, if you're playing Turner, Nembhard, Siakam, you're playing Halliburton, Siakam, like, don't go to Mathurin, McConnell as much, because those guys just won't make as much sense in a lineup really overall, because they're going to come in when the scoring is terrible and they need some shot creation. If the shot creation is going well, those guys won't be on the court. SGA, we talked about. Jalen Williams, we talked about. Kason Wallace, kind of talked about enough already. He's expensive at 4,400, more expensive than the other value guys, but has a regular rotational role. I think he and Caruso should be similarly owned, given that they are similarly priced. And Ben Shepherd might play some more defensive minutes as well. Would think he plays more minutes, though, in a spot where you see Indiana build a lead. So Shepherd, maybe give him a boost if you're playing 2-3 Pacers in a lineup. But I think for me, if he's playing from behind, and I do expect the Pacers again, it's most likely be playing from behind. I don't think Ben Shepherd gets out there as much because he just doesn't offer enough scoring-wise. But that's our 2 main views here. We'll go game by game. Appreciate all you guys tuning in and watching live. Thank God the NBA is back. Yes, the NBA is back, and it's a big tournament today. $250K to first place is the big one. $1.25 million prize pool, so only a 20% to first. Actually, a little bit more prizes to go around in that one. So hopefully it'll be a fun one. And guys, if you got value out of this video, show some love if you can. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Going to finish it up throughout the NBA season. Possibly transitioning to MLB after. Hopefully I will. But I might have too many best ball commitments on the other side. So we'll see how it goes. But either way, this is going to be your channel for NBA content moving forward, and hopefully some MLB coming up so I can find the bandwidth to do it / the willpower to do it. Check out Stochastic too. Of course, you're seeing their data on the screen. Get it all for yourself, updated 15% off, and that includes the weekly packages too. So you probably don't want a monthly data of NBA at this point, though you can get it for MLB, for PGA, MMA, NASCAR, whatever you want, for 15% off as well. If you're going in for NBA, get a weekly package, 15% off. Use the promo code SPLASH or the link in the description. It's the best deal they have going right now, so do check it out. All right, Indiana, 110.3 implied points. We've basically talked about everybody and every reason they might succeed or fail, so I don't think we need to cover it anymore. But Thomas Bryant here, maybe some world where Tony Bradley plays over him. I don't think it's the most likely, but it is a revenge game for Tony Bradley. I don't think that matters in the playoffs, with Bradley also having an injured hip. And again, I think Thomas Bryant's a better matchup, but with Thomas Bryant being 8% owned, maybe take that shot on Bradley 2%. If you really are doing a 150 set, I think that would be logical. Oklahoma City on their side, and we've pretty much talked about everybody. Jalen Williams, I don't really expect to be in the rotation, but if they do go with more Holmgren Hartenstein minutes, getting some Jalen Williams seems logical. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I would say if you are playing Holmgren and Hartenstein together, maybe you want to consider Jalen Williams more, because if those guys are playing 30 minutes each. They probably just wanted an approach where they had more big men out there than not. I would be surprised if that were the case, to be totally honest, given what we talked about. It is only 2 games, but the fact they played less big men overall, the fact that he didn't go crazy and played Jalen Williams when they could have, when they benched Hartenstein in 1 game, I think that speaks to me a little bit as well. So the fact they went small versus Indiana makes me think they're going to go small here. But if somehow they play against type, they do go bigger. Jalen Williams maybe has some way to get on the court at 1K and be a guy that can put up a lot of fantasy points fast if he's out there at all. Isaiah Joe, your value. Kenrich Williams, your value. Just guys that really could not play in the series, and it wouldn't be a shocker. If you got more Caruso, got more Wallace, I think that wouldn't be shocking to me at all. But that's the game-by-game view. So let's go to Unabated next. Look at our best bets. Run a DFS sim, see what that looks like. And let's go to Unabated now. So here's your WNBA player ROI. I have to log in. I probably should have logged in first. But the WNBA killing it for Unabated as well right now. Check them out. 20% off link down below if you want to get their general betting tools or get stuff that includes NBA for this finals run here, the conditional projections. WNBA as well. They've made a good amount of money so far in their tournaments. They're betting products out there. I'm sorry, still thinking of DFS. But Unabated's done a good job for people out there, no matter what the sport, because they are making premium projections for bettors that, quite frankly, spend a lot more money than you or I do on a given day. So you're in good hands for pick'ems for regular betting as well. If you're playing on Unabated, and if you are playing on Unabated data, whether it's the market-based projections or the conditional ones, try to increase your sample size. When you use premium data sources, premium kind of processes, you want to make sure to increase your sample size as much as possible, even if it means getting in $101 bets as opposed to one $100 bet. That's your best approach overall in betting if you are playing any sort of market and efficiency-based approach, which is important. I think people have gotten used to seeing like those 1,000 and like fucking 500 betting cards on Pickett, and understanding that might be a way to be, profitable over the course of time. But I think some people out there don't do a good enough job saying that, like, basically, if you're going to get any positive results in betting, using like projection-based data, comparing it to what sportsbooks have, or using kind of a projection based off of all the top sportsbooks. You need to get a lot of bets in is really the main thing. So not saying that to make you bet more, but just so you kind of set expectations accordingly, that like to materialize percentages of difference, you really have to be putting in like hundreds, thousands of bets. But anyway, Miles Turner, you're not going to get a ton of bets here, though. Miles Turner under 13.5. So put your $100 on this under 13.5 points plus 100 odds. Really big EV gap, though. 8.7% EV for under 13.5. You can see that the pickup sites pricing it at the same line, despite being 18% juice on those bets. FanDuel as well mispriced, or priced less generously. 28% less good bet on FanDuel. So keep that in mind here for the DraftKings bet on Miles Turner. Really the only one you should take under 13.5 points, because it is plus money. You're basically not paying vig in a bet that's better than a 50-50 chance. Ben Shepherd, close to playable, over 3.5 points plus 120. Again, he'll play if the Pacers have a lead. He could play a lot more minutes potentially for his defense, but don't expect Ben Shepherd to do a ton out there. Benedict Mathurin, close to playable, over 7.5 points. We'll see. Benedict Mathurin real up and down in the playoffs, but he's also not getting enough chances. For a guy who's a usage hog like him, probably needs more minutes to really get him reading if he's a good player or not at this point in the playoffs. All right. Nothing. Not surprised there's not a lot here, because basically we've had 5 days for the NBA Finals markets to tighten up. I'm surprised we saw a line as inefficient as that Miles Turner one, but really nothing for rebounds I would take. I think it'll probably look a little bit better for game 2 when we get there, or game 3 if we have to wait. Assist, all the value gets bled out. Really important to act on these markets as quickly as possible when you are using a tool like Unabated, because when the game has 5 days to sit around stale, the sharp bettors get their action in. The pricing is then kind of determined by the sportsbook off their leans, and they figure out a really good price. And as a result, you're really not getting good prices. But Halliburton under 9 assists on Prize Picks, playable at 1.5% EV. Normally 1 to 2% or higher EV, but if you're looking for NBA betting, that's probably about as good as it's going to get mathematically. And PRAs, we have anything here. All right, PRAs, we got Miles Turner again. Miles Turner under 20.5 PRAs, minus 105 odds on DraftKings, gets you 5.7% EV. It's actually a pretty nice number. So the Turner lines there for points and for under on PRA is looking pretty generous relative to what I'd expect. TJ McConnell under 13.5 PRA is looking good on both pick'em sites. They're priced the same, under 13.5 points at the usual minus 118 odds on a pick'em, but 2.3% EV on there. And Halliburton under 31.5 PRA is really not playable, but if you're desperate for something on FanDuel, you can take that bet. Again, not the most exciting segment here. I'm not surprised by the results, but we got to do it as part of the process here, because that's That's what the people demand. They would storm down the gates if I didn't look at the fucking 3 bets that we have that might be playable on unabated. All right, last stage of our journey, a DFS sim, where we will have stochastic showdown projections create. This is not, I got to build the lineups first. Let them create 5,000 lineups. They'll compete against each other 10,000 times. And of course, we saw what my data looks like overlaid in the sim. Now you'll see what stochastic data has with no input from me. So we'll get a read on what people will be building in stochastic data today. And of course, if you want to build your own lineups, go get 15% off down below. I'm like, my nose is so itchy here. I'm like, I want to pick it, but like, I don't have a booger in there. It's like itchy. Stochastic, maybe it's allergies. 15% off. I did sneeze outside while walking the dog. 15% off. Link down below. Stochastic. Check it out. Projections, data, all that stuff. Unabated, 20% off. You saw their tool a moment ago. Again, not a ton of bets for NBA, but there's a lot more for WNBA in a given slate, in particular using the conditional projections. Again, premium data made by Justin Fan and the crew over there. We'll do a good job for you. So check it out for yourself for WNBA for unabated. And really, if you want to make money in gambling, digging in and doing WNBA betting is not glamorous. It's like the old farmer meme. It's an honest living though. If you're going to do any sort of betting, just betting WNBA lines off of unabated data. If I were a less lazy person, I would do that myself, to be honest. Probably your most plus UV opportunity, because MLB could be fine, depending on who you're following for that data. But WNBA using actual projections, it's just not. Sportsbooks don't price WNBA correctly, even compared to the market-based stuff. But for proprietary projections made by like a team that knows what they're doing and makes NBA projections at a high level, you're probably going to do well with this. And that's just me being candid about it. All right. Your top ROI lineups right now. Shout out to all the guys joining late here. Appreciate all you watching. Again, hit that like button, subscribe if you can. And do check out Stochastic too. Again, really support the channel if you can on the home stretch, because the views are not really the highest and I'm not making a ton of money off this. So the more you guys do sign up for Stochastic or unabated, it does support the show and go a long way. Or join the Discord as well. $5 to join. You guys know the deal. Supports the channel directly and all that. If you want to see me do MLB in particular, I'd really join the Discord as fast as you can. And tell me, get baseball going and I'll do it. SGA, Benedict Mathurin, your top lineup. Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, Pascal Siakam, TJ McConnell. So, again, I would say this one works well enough. I would have a hard time playing Mathurin in a lineup where we had basically Halliburton, Turner, a bunch of dudes. But just Siakam, again, Mathurin and McConnell, I think, will play well together today because they're just going to signal kind of a game script that says Indiana's not doing well in the first unit. They need scoring. These guys play more minutes and hopefully get better results. So I think them being in a lineup together works. But this lineup allegedly has no dupes, leaving $100 on the table with SGA at captain. So maybe your best SGA captain lineup according to Stochastic today. Number 2, and again, this has 3 dupes on it. So with Stochastic stuff and how it goes, I would worry that it's like 75 dupes because they are, I think, not the best at calculating dupes, to be totally honest. That said, Chet Holmgren at captain, Aaron Wiggins, just something I'd be mindful of when I go through lineups myself. I will really often avoid the 3 dupe lineups if I can, if I'm using a Stochastic sim. But Chet Holmgren, Aaron Wiggins, Andrew Nembhard, Isaiah Hartenstein, Jalen Williams. SGA is this one. So Holmgren at captain. We do fade Jalen Williams in this. Actually, no, we don't. We have Jalen Williams in it. Never mind. I don't love Holmgren at captain with Jalen Williams, but I think this is also enough of a pure OKC ass-kicking lineup that I get it. Nembhard being the one pacer to make it seems unlikely because his best opportunity is if the Pacers are competitive in the game. He's out there for defense, gets a little scoring going for himself. Find it hard to believe he'd be your one pacer to make it. But, that lineup core here, maybe swap Nembhard to Mathurin could be kind of fun. Swap him to McConnell could be kind of fun. There's something to that lineup, but I don't love it. Number 3, SGA, Aaron Wiggins, Andrew Nembhard, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, TJ McConnell. So this is really basically a total Pacers blowout one. Nembhard making a lineup, I get it projection-wise, but again, same thing here. I think there's a particular game script for him to make a lineup. I'm not sure this is the one with McConnell in it and nobody else. But, the lineup works. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's top lineup according to Stochastic. Number 4 is SGA, captain again. He's been in quite a few of these so far. Alex Caruso, Benedict Mathurin, Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, Pascal Siakam. So Caruso and Dort without Keyshawn Wallace in the lineup makes sense because those 3 will eat minutes from each other. Probably want max 2 out of 3 out of that group. For Benedict Mathurin in, again, if they need scoring, he'll make it in. So this build could say they need scoring. Siakam did play well versus OKC enough in the regular season to go here. And certainly not playing Halliburton, playing Siakam, always something I would say is the thing I prefer to do in a showdown. Or, especially if you have Siakam at captain, I think that's when I think Halliburton really loses some utility. Number 5, Isaiah Hartenstein at captain. So they're taking the big swing here. Aaron Wiggins, Andrew Nembhard, Chet Holmgren, SGA, Tyrese Halliburton. So competitive game here. Wiggins, one of those guys that really could not be in the rotation at all, and it wouldn't shock me. But he's coming up a good amount in these lineups so far. But Hartenstein at captain, I think it's tough to expect him to get there with OKC playing smaller against the Pacers in the 2 games they played this year. But if he does play the minutes, he's been a good producer. So that's your risk you're taking on if you play Hartenstein at captain. Play ROIs here. Honest living unless you're Terry Rozier. There we go. That's always have to make the caveats for Terry Rozier and his gambling. That didn't actually occur, by the way. I think he got immediately not incriminated. So I think it's one of those things where like his reputation will forever have that ding on him, especially given the fact he also played like shit this year for Miami. So people are like, oh, he's probably betting his parlay unders. And it's like, no, he just sucks at the worst possible time. Aaron Wiggins, your highest, or actually, let's look at all of them together. Highest ROI guy, Aaron Wiggins in the flex, negative 1% ROI, and we're not worried about the negative numbers here for a sim. We just want to see the directional accuracy. So Aaron Wiggins in the flex, your highest ROI player technically, according to Stochastic overall. SGA at captain number 2, Chet Holmgren at captain number 3, Chet Holmgren in the flex at number 4. So Stochastic loving Holmgren's ROI so far. Probably going to have a lot more exposure for Holmgren than I did. TJ McConnell, negative 9% ROI in the flex. Jalen Williams right behind him in the flex, and Kason Wallace right behind him in the flex. So Wiggins being this high surprises me in terms of the ROI guys, but that 1K salary does a lot. And again, not a lot of pure 1K guys are going to be playable on the slate. And Wiggins himself, frankly, might not be playable. Like he could not play minutes and it just wouldn't be a shocker either. But if he does play minutes, he's going to try to get a shot up and he'll be kind of like Mathurin. If they need him to get the shot up and, you know, like he's doing well, he'll get more minutes. If they don't need him to get the shot up and he's doing well, he might get a few more minutes. If they don't need him to get the shots up and he's playing terribly, then he'll just get like no minutes at all. These top lineups all seem to say Halliburton fails, not just at his price, but generally. I mean, yeah. And Stochastic doesn't really account for things like how a player played in 2 games of the regular season, so that's not part of it either. I think it's just that the price tag, the matchup probably make Halliburton a less well-projected play, which, you know, doesn't surprise me. Overall, highest exposed guys. Let's go flex first. Holmgren in the flex, 54%, Fields at 41. So you're getting a pretty big stand on Holmgren in the flex. Not a surprise given what we saw with his ROI numbers. Jalen Williams flat with the field here. And of course, that is a regular Jalen Williams, not big man Jalen Williams, who might not play in the game. But 49% overall for Stochastic in their top at 50. Fields also at 49 and change. Aaron Wiggins, 49% exposure, Field at 45. That's a really big Wiggins stand for a guy who just might not play minutes. SGA, 40%, Fields at 45. So they like SGA enough, but he's not in every lineup, at least with the field and the flex ownership so far. Pascal Siakam, 38%, Fields at 37 and change. So a little bit of a pro stand on Siakam. Halliburton, 33%, Fields at 46. So like Green Checkmark was saying, pretty anti-Halliburton, though he is still making a third of lineups in the flex. TJ McConnell, 31%, Fields at 21. So they do like him as well as a flex option. Captain highest exposed guys. So SGA, 52% overall at captain, and then 40% here. So 92% SGA overall. So he is pretty much in every lineup for Stochastic. 8% of lineups not having him, though, kind of represents what you're doing in a 150 set or what you should be doing. Chet Holmgren, 2x the field here. So they are big in favor of Chet Holmgren. That's a lot of flex ownership, good amount of captain as well. Holmgren is Stochastic's favorite player, which does not make me feel good as somebody that's probably not going to get a lot of Chet Holmgren naturally. Jalen Williams, 10%, Fields at 16. They're under on Jalen Williams at captain. Halliburton, fading him, 7% at captain, Fields at 9. Siakam, only 5% rounded up to captain, Fields at 6%. Caruso, 3% of captain, Fields at 2. That's a pretty shitty play, but maybe if you cram in all the stars with them, it could work. Hartenstein, 2% of captain, Fields at 0.8. All right. So your highest leverage guys overall, Chet Holmgren in the flex, 13% more in the field. Hartenstein in the flex, 12% more in the field. Not as big of a stand as I got in the sim I ran, but still a pretty pro stand for Isaiah Hartenstein. TJ McConnell, 9% more than the field. Chet Holmgren at captain, 9% more than the field. SGA, 8% more than the field at captain. Mathurin, 5% more in the flex. Turner, 5% more in the flex. Negative leverage guys, Halliburton, minus 14% in the flex. Toppin, 11% less in the flex. You do not like Toppin. Neesmith, 9% less in the flex, barely playing him. Isaiah Joe, 8% less in the flex, really not playing him very much at all either. Jalen Williams, 6% less at captain. SGA, 5% less at captain. Caruso, 5% less at captain. So really the Holmgren stand seems to be the one to take away the most from here. Otherwise, kind of flat. Not SGA at captain, though. Really coming over the top in SGA at captain. I'm going to give you guys my splash plays for the day. Before we do that one last run, please subscribe down below with the like button, leave a comment. Again, showing up doing these videos for the NBA Finals whenever we have a slate. It's on a weekday. Might do it for the weekends too if I can, but we'll see how the weekend looks. Either way, though, we'll be here for down the home stretch of the NBA Finals. And hopefully we'll do some MLB stuff after. But for now, strap in for NBA if you can. And join Stochastic, 15% off link down below. Get a weekly package if you're playing NBA. Get a monthly if you're playing MLB or PGA or MMA or NASCAR on there. But it's all 15% off. It's the best deal they have, even though they'll tout some other ones. 15% off is in perpetuity. So it's really the best deal you have, especially if you're going to be a longer term member. Unabated 20% off link down below. Promo code SPLASH as well. And join the Discord, $5 to join to support the show if you want to see more of this content. In particular, if you want to see me muscle up the energy to do it for MLB, it takes a lot of prep for me to do it. Really would want you guys to join the Discord to do that. So check me out. Link down below. Join if you can, $5 to join. And you can join a community here of guys that are not assholes, that are trying to gamble like you are, and while not, hopefully not hemorrhaging money every day is the goal. Splash plays for the day. Unfortunately, I think it has to be Hartenstein. I really have concerns about the big man minutes, but if he's coming up that much for me in the flex, I'll play him some amount. Really think to me, he's more of a 33% flex play as opposed to the 50% I got we talked about earlier in the video, but I think Hartenstein for me will be the play here. And unfortunately, he really does go, I think, at loggerheads with Chet Holmgren. If Holmgren's going to be one of the Stochastic's favorite plays, I'm really at risk with Hartenstein. But it's getting different. Showdowns, you kind of have to be willing to push your chips in the middle with plays that you have better projected, and Hartenstein's one of those guys for me. Besides that, McConnell, Toppin, Mathurin, I got more in the field of them. I don't know if they're really splash plays. And the biggest stand for me really is Hartenstein. I would say Turner, Nembhard. I'll just say the splash plays for me are Hartenstein and the secondary tier of Pacers, the non-Halliburton tier. Even the tertiary tier of Pacers. I think they all are going to be above the field for me today. Talked enough about the game theory of it. I think you run into a decent probability here. The Pacers do get their ass kicked by OKC. I'm going to try to play some different builds. I might try to hand build some and sim it out and see how it does today. Because I think this is the kind of game today where you can find some specific builds that you make by hand that are not going to be fully covered by projections. And thinking about the correlation, how things work, again, Hartenstein and Chet, do they play together? Thinking about that in lineups, thinking about Chet versus Jalen Williams, how do those lineups work together? Do you take one out, put one in? Can you downgrade a Nembhard spot to somebody else in the Pacers? If a lineup looks good, I think those are the kind of approaches I'm going to make today, which is not as direct as I usually like to give. You guys saw my exposures and whatever, so it's going to be close to that. But I do think for the finals and for the tournaments being as much money up top as they are and 20% to first, think trying to get a little more creative with your build and not just taking what an optimizer or a sim gives you on first blanch. It's probably a wise move. So that's how I'm going to try to do it tonight. But hopefully that adds some value. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow this channel at Splash Play Bets. We'll also be on at 3 p.m. on Stochastic doing a DraftKings Best Ball Draft in NFL. 4 p.m. is our 420 stream on the Splash Play Pod channel where I'll be getting blazed on here, probably a beer and a joint, doing a draft on Drafters today. So join on Drafters, promo code SPLASH if you want to draft with me today, but also just come hang out there at 4 o'clock and we'll get a little bit loose. And I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Enjoy NBA Finals Game 1. Hopefully it is a fun one, even though, those coastal elites won't be watching it, but I'll be watching it tonight. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.